I have to do it.
No, you don't.
Forgive me.
Transformers!
Ooh, this will be fun. The Michael Bay Transformers movies took control of a very confused franchise. Prior to the release of the first movie, all we had was this. They have done many brilliant things for the franchise, of which I will cover later, but sadly the movies have also caused a plethora of issues and misrepresented the line to absolute death. I am aware of how divided the Transformers fanbase is on these movies. There are those who refuse to even acknowledge that they're a part of the Transformers multiverse, the G1 loyalists. And those who entered the franchise with these films and have no idea what an Ultra Magnus is, and yet will still defend these movies to their last dying breath. The films delves into territory not yet seen in any form of Transformers fiction, giving us a grittier and more realistic version of our favourite heroes and villains. In a sense, they rebooted the franchise, taking it away from the kiddie and light-hearted aftertaste left by the Unicron trilogy, and giving the franchise overall a more violent and darker tone. While this outright sounds fantastic, sadly it wasn't the only change. As a result, fans were left with mixed tastes. There were those that loved them, and those that despised them. I'm more in between when it comes to these films. I'll elaborate soon enough. Even those that hate the Michael Bay movies can admit that the movies had a massive impact on the series, reeling in thousands of new fans and changing the series forever. Most people will think of these films when they think Transformers nowadays. Look up any of the characters' names on Google, and I guarantee you the first thing that comes up will be one from the movie. There's also a third party of people who watch these films. People who see them as normal movies. As in people who aren't fans of Transformers that saw these movies anyway. And it's more than likely they'd opt for the hate side of the love-hate relationship many have for these films. And that is because, let's be honest, they're not very good movies.
I am directly below!
Thanks in part to the director.
Kill yourself!
See, this is how Michael Bay ranks movies, right? First, he takes a good franchise, and then he throws in some explosions and Megan Fox, and you've got an average Michael Bay movie. Voila! Instant 20% on Rotten Tomatoes. I would also like to take the time to address the fact that the 2007 Transformers movie has a higher rating on Rotten Tomatoes than the 1986 one. Someone please fix this. Please? In all seriousness, the 5 films don't do anything groundbreaking. Nothing that hasn't been done better in other films, but overall I think they're decent. Nothing more and nothing less. Out of the 5 currently out at the time of this video, the first one would have to be my favourite, and is the only one I would consider to be good, with Age of Extinction coming next, and the others can go die. Dark of the Moon had some good moments, but overall it was things like Shockwave that really let it down, which I will get to later. The fact that they're making plenty more of these movies is very concerning.
What the fuck?
However, the Bumblebee spin-off does have everyone's favourite outdated meme in it.
And his name is John C.
So at least there's that. So before we get to complaining, let's talk about what I love about the movies. One of my favourite things about the current Pentology is what they have done for the franchise, and how they revolutionised it over time rather than instantly. Without the films, we wouldn't have awesome things such as Bumblebee in animated, as the character would still be an obscure one due to Hotshot replacing him in Armada. Fun fact, initially he was going to be Hotshot, but it was thanks to the popularity of the films that brought Bumblebee back into the spotlight, and rightfully so. In hindsight, this is more of a nuisance now, with Bumblebee taking center stage of everything Transformers related, but without the movies bringing the classic character back, it would have been more than likely we would have seen Hotshot's face plastered on everything. And I don't want to live in that hell. Another excellent quality of the films is essentially one of the only reasons people watch them in the first place: the action scenes. I thoroughly believe that even those who curse these movies as the worst thing to ever grace the Transformers franchise, which is wrong, can't deny that the action scenes in these films are absolutely spectacular. These movies bring us epic scenes executed in gorgeous looking CGI that translate the wonder and awe we would feel if we were to gaze upon these new, modern and awesome designs of our favourite characters in real life. The first movie is 10 years old this year, and it still looks beautiful today. They perfectly encapsulated the fear or heroism intended to be given off by the Decepticons and Autobots respectively. The new designs are iconic and absolutely fantastic. Mostly, anyway. At the very least, the main 5 Autobots are awesome-looking, realistic versions of their former 1984 selves. The films brought in brutal violence into the franchise, which served as the influence for Prime's more serious take on the classic tale of Transformers. Though Transformers has experienced brutal violence before in things such as Beast Wars and Dreamwave's G1 comics, it was the Transformers movies that properly normalized it into the franchise. However, other things that debuted in the movie would also spill into the future of the franchise, such as Bumblebee's lack of a voice appearing in Prime and the Align games. Overall, the movie shaped the future of Transformers for better or worse.
I knew you loved me.
Don't get too excited yet, babe, because I'm just getting started. The first Transformers movie, in my opinion, was fantastic. It came out around the time I had just gotten into the series, and getting to experience the Transformers in such an epic way was truly an exhilarating feeling. And I'm sure many others who were kids when this film first came out can attest to that. There was a lot wrong with it, but overall I loved it, and I couldn't wait to see more. Unfortunately, Bay didn't deliver. Revenge of the Fallen and Dark of the Moon have their moments at times, such as the insanely epic forest fight scene or the Chicago battle at the end of Dark of the Moon, but overall, they really aren't that great. Apparently, I have an unpopular opinion when it comes to Age of Extinction in the sense that I actually liked it a lot better than the two films prior, thanks in part to the special someone playing the lead, and I felt it was a step in the right direction. It wasn't groundbreaking, but it was certainly an improvement over Mr. Wrecking Balls and that Hunchback thing. However, that is as far as my praise will go.
Don't you dare.
Because the last night threw it out the goddamn window.
Oh.
One major problem I have with the movies is a pretty big one. The Transformers themselves. Though the designs are awesome, every single Transformer just seems so bland and lifeless. No character has any charisma or personality whatsoever. We Transformers fans are very much aware that the Cybertronians are so much more than just robots, and yet the scriptwriters apparently can't write them as anything else. Giant robot killing machines that make money. The most character we get from anyone in the first film is the Autobot introduction scene. Jazz is the cool one, Ratchet is the serious one, and Ironhide is the tough one. But that's pretty much it. Sure, kids will go crazy over Bumblebee because reasons, but overall none of the Transformers stand out from one another. It's a shame that almost every single character by the end of the movies just end up as something to fill the background with, before they're killed off. One of the best things about Transformers is the fact that the series has so many goddamn characters. Seriously, so many. And yet they all have reasonably distinct personalities. You can tell them apart from one another. They're fleshed out reasonably well, especially in things such as the IDW comics. But when it comes to the movies, how can you even tell the difference? There's just Red Robot and Grey Robot and other Grey Robot. Instead of spending time actually developing the whole gimmick of the film, the movies instead pull a G.I. Joe versus the Transformers on us and focuses more on the humans, which isn't a bad thing on paper. Initially, what was so cool about the first act of the original Transformers movie was that we didn't actually get to see the Transformers for a while. It made their appearance shocking and memorable. But that same shocking gimmick loses its luster when another 4 films come into play, and even worse when they continue to focus on the humans instead of the thing that is actually interesting. It isn't a bad thing in small doses, but can become ridiculous over time. I didn't come here to see a movie called Humans.
You suck.
I'm here all night. The problem with it is how paper thin the human characters are. While I absolutely despise Sam Witwicky with a burning passion, and nothing against Shia LaBeouf, I just really don't like Sam. He is probably one of the only characters in all of the movies to actually undergo development. In contrast, while I really like Cade Yeager, his character isn't really built up from anything aside from the love of his daughter serving as the motivation for his character. The presence of humans in Transformers is to serve as a relatable side of the story, reminding us that these are aliens who have taken up arms on our planet. A lot of Transformers media have made some really compelling human characters. However, the movies ones are just so bland and lifeless. Don't even get me started on Megan Fox's character. The Decepticons are awful in these films. They're evil just because. They have no motive, no character or anything. They're just there to be maliciously destroyed. And the Autobots aren't any better. While a majority of them have a snarky or cocky attitude, a majority of them don't speak or do anything except appear in the background and attempt to advertise their toys, which are arguably full of more character than their movie counterparts. And most importantly, Optimus isn't really even Optimus anymore. He's not the heroic icon that many once looked up to. He's a merciless killing machine that the scriptwriter used to create brutal fight scenes they came up with. Sure, it looks cool, but it doesn't look that good for the character. They've ruined the name Optimus Prime, a name used for a character who believed in the good of everyone. He didn't shy away from killing, but making him this dark, tyrannical being who is just as bad as Megatron really ruins the whole idea of the character. Freedom is the right of all sentient beings, except Decepticons. They can all die.
No, Optimus! Sorry, my bad.
Speaking of death, it is one of the major issues in these movies. Violence is great, especially in a series like Transformers. However, when it gets to the point when you're introducing characters only to use them as cannon fodder, it becomes ridiculous. The death count in these films is astounding. No character makes it through to all of the movies. That's a sad fact. Don't get attached to anyone. It's like Game of Thrones with giant robots, except the characters in Game of Thrones actually matter. The character death was originally shocking, with Jazz's death in the first movie being genuinely mildly disgruntling. But at this point, it's just expected. Bumblebee is the only one of the original 5 Autobots to not die at some point. And I'm sure we all know why that is. And of course, there's always Barricade, but that was more of a fact of the writers forgetting about its existence. The Barricade in The Last Knight shares absolutely no similarities with the one from the original film, barring the police car alt mode, and could easily pass as a separate character. Some characters were forced into the movies for sheer recognizability, despite them not actually doing anything. A great example of this is Shockwave, the character hyped up for promos and trailers in Dark of the Moon, and then the character that didn't actually do anything in the movie aside from die. Awesome characters such as Ironhide, one of the only characters that actually possessed some semblance of personality, was killed by the awful villain Sentinel Prime, as was Jazz, Ratchet, Leadfoot, Wheeljack, and more. All characters who didn't deserve to share the names of the actually personality-filled bots before them. Hashtag not my Wheeljack. One of the most infuriating examples of this is every single Decepticon that appeared in The Last Knight. They were nothing but false advertising. They all received this out-of-place and ridiculous intro sequence, only for all of them to die in literal seconds. I absolutely despise the fact that they attributed a random reused character model with the name of a fantastic character in the series, and then kill him off in literally seconds of his appearance, despite the marketing building him up as a character in the film. People use the argument that they only watch the films for the fights, but Transformers is so much more than that. It deserves so much more than that. The series is as famous and beloved as it is, not just because it has giant robots in it. It's the personalities and characters that were given to these toys that made them so iconic. It's up to the external material such as the comics and books that give these wasted characters life, but these movies do absolutely nothing with them. It's such a waste. Sure, the aforementioned characters have no personality at all, but people love them anyway. I seriously can't understand this though. Someone says they love Sideswipe. How? Because he looks cool? I mean, that I can agree with, but the guy has literally about 4 or so lines in the entire 2 films he actually appears in, and yet people claim he's their favorite character. The design team obviously put a lot of effort into the design of most characters, and a lot of the Transformers do indeed look awesome, but it can't be a half-assed effort. Someone can look as cool as they want, but if the character has no personality to go along with it, then what's the point? And sadly, that was the reoccurring pattern in the 5 films.
You can't stop now.
Oh, I'm not done just yet.
The boy's pheromone levels suggest he wants to mate with the female.
My biggest pet peeve with these films are their oversaturation. Hasbro must have made billions with all the merchandise. Oh, look at that, they did. The toys are cool, or at least used to be. But you'd think they'd realize it's time to stop when you're putting Bumblebee's face on a goddamn pillow and water bottle. Bumblebee is literally everywhere. Maybe not as much as Olaf or the Minions used to be, but still, his presence on everything Transformers related is becoming very, very annoying. Speaking of which, why are these films marketed at kids? The movies have scenes and jokes that are way too inappropriate for the audience the toys are marketed at. Seriously, Hasbro, you can't dumb down these scenes into storybooks and pretend everything's okay. Oh yeah, Megatron just knocked Jazz unconscious, sure. Most kids won't even understand what the hell is going on until their parents rip them out of the cinema due to the occasional swear. I'm looking at you, Wheelie. A recurring complaint is that it's impossible to tell who's fighting who and what's going on, as the majority of the Transformers look similar, if not the same. These usually come from either casual fans or people who aren't fans at all, which is understandable considering they don't know who the characters are or what they look like. Though I can agree on this point to some amount, it doesn't make all the action scenes completely impossible to understand as the critics imply. It just makes them less full of life and action, as by the time you actually work out who's fighting who, the fight's already over and another character is dead. These generic designs are what lead to the absolute mess that is the Transformers movie comic books. The movie designs do not translate well on paper and end up looking like rejected Bionicles. The designs are so generic that the films end up reusing the same character models over and over, leading to the massive confusion that was Blackout and Grindor. Oh no, we have this amazing character design for a character we killed off in 5 seconds. Let's reuse it again, guys, and then kill him off again. The movies also have ridiculous gags that make no sense whatsoever. Bay inserts what he thinks is funny into them, and wastes these awfully unfunny and sometimes offensive jokes in a Transformers movie.
Bumblebee, stop lubricating the man.
Overall, the crux of the problem is how these films have impacted how the series is viewed. Many use the argument that without the films, Transformers would have become a dead franchise. And while that may be true, I guess we'll never really know. The issue is now that when people think Transformers, they don't think this or this or this, they think this and this and this. I just wanted to watch a Transformers movie. I didn't want this. Much like Teen Titans Go was done to Teen Titans, the word Transformers now refers to these abysmal and universally hated films and have honestly damaged the reputation of the franchise. They're honestly quite slanderous towards the rest of the series, which we all know does not contain jokes as juvenile as Devastator's Wrecking Balls. While I don't hate the Transformers movies due to how much they brought to the franchise and how it caused what followed to improve, the fact that kids think stuff like this is absolutely baffling.
Megatron just turned into a gun?
If you weren't 5, I'd tear your goddamn head off! The movies increased popularity of the series and brought in a plethora of new fans, which is a good thing in certain aspects. If anything, the films serve as a good starting point for what is overall a fantastic franchise. As I said, I don't hate the Michael Bay films, but for what they've done for the franchise overall, both for the fans' sake and for Hasbro's wallet's sake, has been exceptional. I'm still gonna go see the Bumblebee movie, not just because of John. Despite everything, despite how little effort goes into these films, despite how little the people working on them care, and despite how little promise they have, I'm still going to go see them. Because I still care enough to want to go see them. Wait, they're making how many more?
I like money.
You're not even making the—
Money.
I'm gonna take a leaf out of Michael Bay's book and promote the crap out of this shirt. If you like this shirt, head over to Ripped Apparel. If you enter the code DiamondBolt, you can get 10% off any purchase, which I think is pretty cool because they have some awesome designs of shirts. Like this one, I love this one. So be sure to head over to their site and type in the code DiamondBolt if you want to buy anything. Anyway guys, thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next Ruin Forever.